Hey everyone, Skull902 here. Recently I was watching Deke's Sailor Moon dub with one of my friends. The original dub of the show was very edit heavy, typical of the era, some of which it definitely could have done without. But there was a moment while we watched when an edit came up where we agreed that it was a better idea to make that change, and that got me thinking, when and where have changes been made to the betterment of the show? In this video, I'm going to give a few examples. Before we begin, however, I must stress that this is all opinion-based. If you disagree, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone can watch their Japanese cartoons any which way they please. With that, let's get into it. Sometimes, changing the wording of a scene can make it come off better. Let's get a Sonic example out of the way because that's what I'm primarily known for, but in episode 56 of Sonic X, Cosmo comforts Knuckles over being tricked by Eggman in the English dub, whereas in the Japanese version, the Blue Typhoon crew essentially tell Knuckles that it's okay for them to trick him because they're the good guys. Sonic does tease him at the end of the English version, but I think it's supposed to be him joking. Yu Yu Hakusho had generally snappier dialogue in English than in Japanese, which I think gives it an edge in presentation that helps set it apart from other shonen anime. It's not just the script, however. This never happens anymore, but back in the days when soundtrack replacement was the norm, you occasionally got an instance of the new music better fitting the mood. With respect to Dragon Ball Z composer Shunsuke Kikuchi, Z's Japanese soundtrack, with some exceptions, leaned more on the bouncy, comedic side of the original Dragon Ball's music, which clashes with what was largely more so an action series. Funimation hiring Bruce Faulconer to compose their soundtrack for DBZ was the right choice in my mind. His music works as a strength to the show's tone. In a similar vein, the original Japanese theme for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a good song in its own right, but it doesn't really sound thematically fitting to the show's premise. 4Kids' theme, however, oh my god. It's got some Egyptian influence in there to reflect the show's backstory. The mix of orchestral and electronic music is also such a unique blend, especially for the time, that not only grabs your attention, but demonstrates how epic the action you're about to see is going to be. It's a masterclass in theme songs. Another such way is, in certain instances, a moment might come across more awkwardly if translated or presented in its original form. The moment that inspired this video, for instance, was the renaming of Chibiusa's evil form in Sailor Moon R from the awkward-sounding in English Black Lady to the contextually appropriate Wicked Lady. In this instance, my friend and I agreed that this was the right choice, and I would argue should still be the case in the modern try-to-be-as-faithful dubbing of today, so that we can avoid uncomfortable-sounding stuff like this. You know what I'm talking about. In some cases, it just can't be avoided, like the international intro of Sonic X freeze-framing right before Sonic gives the thumbs up in countries where that's an obscene gesture, and in other cases it can backfire. 4Kids' explanation for this rather unfortunate edit in One Piece was that the character looked very stereotyped, but in that case, couldn't his lips have just been redrawn or cut him out entirely instead? Either one probably would have taken less effort. Let's end on a far less depressing note by discussing dubs that intentionally made drastic changes to the show's presentation. For one reason or another, maybe dubbing the show as is doesn't work. When Saban got the rights for Tatsunoko series Kyato Ninden Teande, reference material and scripts of the original were either in limited supply, poor quality, or both, depending on the source. A decision was made to write an original English dub, with the actors largely improvising their lines, making it far more comedic than the original. It ended up working, and the show remains a cult hit to this day. In a similar case, ADV Films were given very few provisions regarding the dub of Ghost Stories and, with that, they decided to make it into something that more so resembles an abridged series than a dub, and audiences loved it. While examples are rare, I do believe that some changes really did improve the show in some way. These were just a few examples, and I think it's a really interesting subject. Admittedly, my standards are pretty lax, so let me know what you think. Agree? Disagree? Got examples of your own? I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to let me know what you thought about the video in the comments. Give it a like if you liked it, or a dislike if you didn't. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and click the bell for notifications. It's free and you can opt out anytime. Here's a playlist with similar content, and my Twitter. I have been Skull902, thank you again for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.